Welcome to this session of Monitoring the Power Platform. In this session, we're going to cover monitoring Power Pages in Power Apps Portal. My name is Ali Yousefi. I am a Microsoft Cloud Solution Architect focused on Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. On the agenda today, we'll look at a Power Pages overview, discussing what it is, what are the benefits of using it versus Canvas and model-driven app. We'll cover monitoring overview, what can and what should be monitored. We'll look at some tools available to us for Power Pages and Power Apps Portal, and what insights can be gathered. We're finally going to look at a deep dive and demo where we will configure both Microsoft Clarity, Azure Application Insights. We'll show how to deep dive into the data points. We'll look at anonymous and authenticated users and building alerts. So Power Pages is a secure enterprise-grade low-code software as a service. It's a platform for creating, hosting, and administering modern external-facing business websites. So why would you choose Power Pages over, say, model-driven apps or Canvas apps? Well, Power Pages are, first off, external. You can have them outside of your organization. Users can navigate to it anonymously, if so chosen. Allow you to quickly reach your customers that way, providing you opportunities for customer self-service. Internally, something like maybe employee self-service, maybe reviewing case notes or uploading documentation from technicians or booking appointments or providing feedback to healthcare providers. So it really provides you a very extensible platform that can connect both internal and external users. Where Canvas app, traditionally more of a internal application to your business enterprise to quickly provide a low-code platform to build. And then model-driven apps, traditionally looked at as a CRM type platform to bring together different silos of information all together in one to quickly act and respond on data. Monitoring overview. So some of the common monitoring asks I've heard are to collect website and page traffic, understanding which are the most heavily used pages within a website, looking at user navigation and trends, being able to know once a user lands on your website, what do they do? Where do they like to go? What do they click on? What trends? Where would they be at, for instance, if say a user maybe is in one region of the world versus another? How do they use your app? Do they like to use it on a mobile device, on a tablet, on a laptop, etc.? Another would be external sources. If your pages or portal connects to other business websites or connects with APIs through the Azure stack, for instance, Azure function, collecting the request to that to understand, hey, what's the performance of that? And performance can be the APIs being connected to, the websites that we're loading, even how long is it taking to load a page, for instance. So allowing us to see, which pages are most heavily used, how are they used, anonymously, authenticated, any external sources capturing metrics on that, as well as all up performance of the portal or page. Let's look at some tools that are readily available to help us monitor Power Pages. So I've listed multiple monitoring tools here across different stacks. You can see at the very first on the left, we have Google Analytics, otherwise known as GA4, which is a freemium service, does have free tooling available to us, allows us to quickly stream from Power Page to help measure, quickly build reports to see how users are interacting, and has a Power Query connector allowing us to build rich visualizations within, say, Power BI or anything within the Microsoft Fabric sort of space. From there, we have Microsoft Clarity, which is in the Microsoft stack, very similar to Google Analytics. It's free to use and collect. It integrates directly with Google Analytics. I think a very strong point for it is that it can work on its own, but also push into Google Analytics. It allows us to collect recordings of users' interactions, pages, clicks on Power Pages, for instance, as well as heat maps. Where are they clicking? What are they clicking on? Is there rage clicks? Is there something that maybe they're clicking and we could disable the button into, once it's been clicked once. So understanding that is Microsoft Clarity provides a great opportunity for us to collect all of that. It does not currently have an API for data modeling, but it does have the ability to extend it through tags and things like that. Finally, we get into Azure Application Insights. You do pay for the ingress and storage within App Insights. It does integrate with the Azure Monitor family. It collects user interactions, clicks, and events, very similar to Microsoft Clarity. You can build heat maps and so on using some of the plugins that are available with Azure Application Insights. It does work with pretty much any platform that you want. So it has an API that can be used with a Node.js or a Python, or in our case, a Power Pages or Power Apps portal. You can export this for long-term retention into Azure storage, for instance. You can export this locally, maybe into a SQL instance you have. You can export it into a third-party service such as Splunk, or even into a cross-cloud solution in AWS or Google. So it has the most extensibility, but it does require paying for the usage of the resource. Okay, to get into some of the demos, we're first going to do a deep dive into both the installation of Microsoft Clarity and the installation of Application Insights into Power App Portal and Power Pages. Okay, let's start with creating a Power Page. We're going to go to the Maker portal and click on Website. And we're going to call this Our Platform 3. Let's see if this will work for us. It's okay. And we'll hit Create. So provisioning can take a few minutes. So we'll come back as soon as this finishes up. In the meantime, what I went ahead and did is also started up the Power Pages site. It's at make.powerpages.microsoft.com. Pointed to my environment here, and then chose the starter layout. You could see the one that's provisioning here earlier that we just looked at, and then you have starter layout as well. So once these are provisioned, we'll pick this back up. Okay, looks like we've got our sites set up now. We can see we have both the Power Page as well as the sort of portal that we set up through the site. They're both provisioned, and we want to now sort of add some monitoring to it. So we see the edit button preview over here. There's an ellipsis, and we see share details, portal management, admin center, and delete. We'll click on portal management, which will open up our portal management app here. You see the two notifications I have is to check the site visibility and the data is available ones that you'll see. So this is the portal management app. You'll see website and all the different areas in the content. If you scroll down, you'll see there's an area called administration and enable traffic analytics. So we'll click on that. And while we're doing that, let's go ahead and pull up some documentation that I wrote about a couple years ago called Implementing Application Insights within Power Pages, or that time it was Power Portal. You'll see here you can click on Portal, or now it says Website, which will go to the Portal Management app, or if you've had this provision for a while, there's the Dynamics 365 portals here. So you're going to add it just how we're doing before. Click on the Enable Traffic Analysis, and we're going to add the Application Insights SDK. So if you scroll down, you'll see past sort of working with it and understanding sort of what's collected, which we'll cover all that once we set it up. But there's a sample code area. We can click on that and get the sample code that's defined here. So we can click on raw and take this code, copy it, and go back to Portal Analytics. You see the two different sites we created, both pages and the portal one. That none of those aren't really any different. We'll add it to the page first, and we'll add the snippet here. You'll need to set up a instrumentation key, so let's do that now. Okay, so we're going to go into our resource groups. So we'll create a new resource group here. Call it RG, call it Power Pages. I'll give it my environment. So what I'm going to do is take the environment that's here, the CRM 997001, 997011, and then I'll set up the app insights. We'll tag it, review and create the resource group here. And go to the resource group. You can see this is just a container, so nothing really in here yet. We'll click create, set up an application insights. And it links up to our Power Pages. So we're going to call this one Power Pages, CRM 997011, and it's going to be in the East US. It's going to be workspace based. You either create a new one or have one that's already existing, but definitely do the workspace based. Classics deprecated. And it'll provision it. So I'm going to demo a couple of ways of how we're going to work with the SDK. The sort of the standard now, but then the upcoming way using the connection string. So for this one, we'll stick with the instrumentation key. So I'm going to copy that, and we're going to go back to our app. And we're going to replace the instrumentation key that we see. Simply save that. Okay, so we've shown the instrumentation key, but for the other site, I'm actually going to do something a little different. I'm going to take the code that we saw before, but I'm going to use the connection string, which is the newer way of working with it. Okay, so let's go back. We're going to go back to our traffic analysis. We'll paste back in. Let's see what we have. So we see we have the app insights and its SDK. See version 2. There is a version 3 that is out now, but we're going to use the connection string. So we're actually going to change this to connection. And we're going to use the connection string that we defined. So we'll go here, get this connection string, paste that. So with double quotes on each side. See. And that'll save it for each one of these. So what this should do is eventually funnel traffic into application insights from each one of our portals. So we have this portal here that we can preview on desktop, for instance, and go look at it. And we're going to stick with this, hit accept. For this to load up. We see we've signed in. There's some pages we have, subpages here. Subpage 2, click on the company name, click on home, do some searching, testing. Pull some data if there was any data here, sign in page, so on. So we're kind of just navigating around to kind of show how it look. Going back here, we can also do the same with the portal that we set up here. So we can see the portal here. So similar, we have subpage 1, subpage 2, contact us. Go back home. Have contact us and fill out some information. Test message, submit, processing, so on. What's actually interesting here is that you can collect those button clicks as well. So if you want to say monitor what clicks your users are using, you can do that. So when they click home, you can capture that, or click search, and even collect what search is happening. by looking at the query string, so on here. So we've generated some content. If I need to troubleshoot, if I'm sending with App Insights, we can simply go look at the code. Let's look at that. So looking at the page, a quick way is to go look at the JavaScript that's underneath everything. You can quickly see the App Insights that we're using as well. So this would actually be the same as using another tool such as Clarity or Google Analytics. You would input your snippet, and then you would see both Clarity or Google Analytics data as well. So let me go ahead and show that as well. So on the Clarity, I can quickly add in a website. So we'll say Power Pages. And we'll go get the URL. So we'll go get that here. And you see it's loading and say install manually. So you can collect the Clarity, quickly go back by going to this one. Now if I want to go update, say, the Power App portal, I can add in this Clarity, go back and do some portal management, or excuse me, do the admin center. Go to the site actions, and I can, in my case, I'm just going to restart the site here, just to make sure I get the latest for what I need. With Power Pages, it actually works very well where you can go into the editor and quickly see the updates that way. So might work with Portal as well. That's just something I've done in the past, but we'll go update that and go look at the page. Eventually, this is the custom page, but if I go back to the portal, this one says it's unavailable. It is restarting, and we'll see about collecting some stuff from Clarity. In the meantime, let's hop on over to Application Insights and see what we're gathering. So you can see I have the starter portal pulled up. This is the Power page. And then we also have the monitoring the Power platform right here. So we have both of these, and they're showing up as page views. What's neat about the page views, so I can see where were they going, where were they at, what user, where were they at, what OS were they using, physically where they were at, what browser they were using here. There's some other stuff you can do as well that's neat about Application Insights, including the sort of user flow. And once you have more information in here, this will look a little bit better, but we can say choose what's an initial event, maybe starting with the starter portal, create a graph. We could see that the sessions have started. Here's our CDS starter portal going home. Here's the initial event. This is all step -1 and step -2 stuff. But we have this both the CDS starter portal, the template, and being able to go into each one of these. So we can really dig deep. What happens after we go to the starter portal, for instance, here. So start building out that user activity. More documentation on the monitoring the Power Platform page. So if you really want to dig deeper inside of here, this is where we can go into looking at the different how to use the liquid templating, how to look at different variables that are available there, and setting up custom dimensions, reviewing the initial messages, looking at the authenticated user, which is going to be the ID of the user that they're connected with. See a little bit more in terms of the user flow here, and even working with the application map and how it can connect with different services you may have, like Azure Function or Dataverse. So more to come on the deep diving regarding the different events that we have. Let's look at a demo of anonymous and authenticated user collection through Azure Application Insights. Okay, so we're going to look at sort of the difference between anonymous and authenticated users. I've got some questions in the past regarding, I'm not seeing IDs, right, for users that are signed in. Why is that? Or how can I tell the difference between an anonymous and authenticated user? So we'll take a quick minute to look at that. So in here, I've pulled up the snippet we've been using that includes the key where you put that in. But you notice here on line 20 through 24, we have this liquid templating. We're saying, hey, if user is an object, I want you to create this CDS contact ID and then set the authenticated user context to this. So this allows us to capture if the person is authenticated that who they are, and so as they navigate through, they'll just have them as part of the context. Until they actually sign in and this value is populated, they'll be treated as an anonymous user. It's not going to necessarily go back and update anything. So you might see some home pages that have a little higher number of anonymous users. Because what happens is we have this track page view and it's not set when it originally does it there. So we'll go look at here. So I've got the analytics, including the CDS contact ID here. I've actually launched the portal. You can see I'm not signed in. To be able to look and see if you have the contact ID, you actually go to Development Tools. And inside of Development Tools, you can go to the index, right? Just hit Sources, go to Index. And here you'll see, in my case, line 581, Add User Context. This is empty. This is empty because I'm not signed in, right? So here's the Sign In button. That's empty. The example shows that here's the comment we'd see, but this would be blank. So what we're going to do is sign in. And let's go back to our snippet, back to our sources. And you can scroll. Typically it's going to be near the bottom here, but now you can see my user, this add user context now is updated. So all of the events that this person will do now will actually show up as this ID that you see. Let's go and click around. So we know we've signed in to the profile page. We are going to go click on subpage 1. Let that load. We'll go to subpage 2. Let that load. We'll go to Contact Us. Let that load. And then I'll sign out. All right, let's go take a look at this in App Insights. Okay, so I've loaded up App Insights. We'll go back to the overview here. So you go to the overview page, you'll see logs. You also see users, and there's users in here. And you can show over a certain amount of time how many users, in this case, 1 user. Show authenticated users. And all users. So authenticated user. You can see some events. Here's the user timeline. And it shows you, hey, it was first seen, at least on this one, December 31st. So we have that. We can go in and actually look at the different sessions in this case. So 2 sessions. We know we had one recently. I'm not sure which one it is, but that's okay. Looks like this one might be close. We had the sign in, the default portal template, etc. But what's this one? See, this one looks a little bit closer to what we were doing. So we have, let's go look at this session. So default portal template. We went to the home page. Remember we clicked on subpage 1 and subpage 2 and then the contact us, and then we did. So if I click on one of these, I'll see the subpage 1. The reason you're seeing duplicates there was because we are calling the page view in our snippet, but we actually don't necessarily need to do that because by default there's a setting you can set on your config to automatically send page views, but you'll see 2.1. But what do I really see? I say load. I have my user ID, but I have my authenticated user. So I'll have this user ID. It's actually quite interesting. See this user ID 0OXQ05IU. If I go before I signed in, we know that I signed in at here, it's sign in. But what about like when I went here right before that? Like here's the sign in at 131. What is this? Notice how it's the same user. Let's see if it's the same session. I'll copy this into session here. Let's go back and look once we've signed in. We'll go back to this one knowing that that's what we have here. I'm going to pull up a notepad. Here's one session. If I pull this one up, here is, you can see before I even paste this one in, that it's already the same session here. So same session, user, but one was authenticated and one was not. But you have this session and user, so you could still see that it's the same user, but what were they doing before they authenticated, for instance? So that's one way of looking at it. We saw the user tab over here. There's also workbooks that we can see active users and authenticated user timelines, for instance. We can see this particular user here, click on them, see their session timeline. Okay, I have this one, the latest, see the timeline. There's exactly what we were looking at before. So you have this nice workbook called Authenticated User Timeline that can help you sort of look at, see who's authenticated. Here's one that may not have been, and here's, theirs. So you still can know about this user, where were they at, what browser were they using, that kind of thing, but not necessarily who they were, as they weren't signed in yet. Finally, let's look at a demo of deep diving into telemetry and building alerts. Okay, for this example, we're actually going to set up an availability test. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Power page that we created earlier inside of Application Insights. I'm going to create a classic test, give it a name. In this case, we're going to clean this up a bit. So I'm going to actually put this URL right here. I'm going to call this Power Pages. I've already done this once, so I'm just going to here. You can see there's different locations that we can set from West Europe, West US, UK, so on. So we want a minimum of five, I would say, and spread it out. So West, knowing this one's in the US, our primary audience will be in the US. We'll stick with that, but maybe we also are international, so we want to also work with, say, East Asia, Australia. I think I'm going to go ahead and put in Brazil as well as Japan. And create. And you'll see you'll have this ellipsis will show up, created successfully. It should show that it's going to be running. So there's this new one here. This will go to the app insights that we have. So I'll go ahead and set these up for the rest of the portals that have been set up. So I have this. This is the one that was created from the Maker portal, the Power App portal website. So we'll do the same. We'll go ahead and take the URL for that one and set up app insights. So I'm going to create another ping test here. And this is just nice, so I can just ping like the home page, and you can ping whatever page you want as unauthenticated. There's the ability to set up a web test that's deprecated. If you want to navigate within, there's different options you can do using UI automation, such as Playwright, Selenium, that kind of thing. So meantime, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit. We're going to call this one Power. Looks good. And we'll do sort of the same here. Southeast Asia, Australia East, create. So I'll say, what's pretty neat about this too is that you'll see the scatter plot or line, depending on which one you choose over here. Right now, we just started it. If I can move this over, kind of see France Central took 1.2 seconds for this power page, this middle one here. And you expand each one, you can go into it and see, the average was 964. You can create rules, and that's what we're going to cover next. But I can do alerts here and quickly kind of see, hey, Australia is 761 East, and so on. So maybe I want to say that the home page needs to render in under 1 second. So far, so good. For this one, we see Brazil South 944, etc. So this would be interesting. This one will run. So for instance, if you're pushing out an update to the portal, you may see some latency here. It shows the availability 100%, duration average as well. If I want to run a rule on maybe a particular, when I can do that, I can say open rules here. You can go see, hey, is there any locations greater than 3? This one's already enabled for us. So it created this rule for us to say, hey, if the failed locations is equal or greater than 3, I want you to say this is a severe error, and you could go into it and see the what the conditions are, and then also set up what the alert rule would be. So in this case, this doesn't have any action group, but I can do something like email or send a Teams adaptive card or something like that. So if I want to do an email, I can do that and have this set up. So this is for this availability test here, and save it. So kick off an email and maybe do something else too as well. Being pretty neat, maybe with the Pack CLI, now working with Portal, you could even automate something to help restart it or whatever that may be. So there's our availability test here. If I refresh this, we should start seeing some different ones. The scatter plot you see will change. This one's still running. What this actually does is it generates some logs. We're going to go look at that now. So it runs in this table called availability results. We're just going to run this one and look at it. And here I can see the location. Was it successful in duration? So this France one took 1.1, almost 1.2 seconds. You see where it was run from. So I could see it's running from Paris. A big thing to make sure is that we look to see that in this one, this is a availability result. We just want to make sure that when we're looking potentially at page views, which is where the App Insights data would go to, that if it's synthetic, meaning it's from the ping test that we're doing, that we flagged the is synthetic flag here. So far it looks good. I don't see any sort of anything here to say otherwise. So that looks great. And here's our cloud role name here. We can see the default portal template and the CDS starter portal. So let's go look at the availability test. I think we got a good handle on. You set that up, you can configure it to point to different areas. Let's quickly run through some queries here. So actually I have a history one that I ran recently, which was right here. Let's take a look at it. So this one, what it does is it looks at page views and says summarize a count of this column we're calling pages, summarized by OS, model, and browser. So we're summarizing by OS, so Windows 10, in this case model, which represents my workstation or laptop, and browser, I'm on Edge 113. We've seen this is run 50 times. For folks that are on Windows 10 using Chrome, 36 times, and so on. So this is like sort of all up based on the OS, model, browser pages. But if I want to go a little deeper, maybe I want to go by name. Name will say what page I was on. So this is sort of the header when you're looking at the tab on your page. So home starter portal, subpage starter portal page. So you can see here, 10 of this subpage was from an iPhone with 16.4 using the Chrome browser. We can see a headless Chrome browser here. We can see a mobile Safari here. So folks from iPhones are using both mobile Safari and Chrome. See Edge. This is good too if you want to see if anybody's using maybe an outdated browser or something like that. So using this summarize is super helpful. You can also group by users and so on. You can see user ID. When a user is authenticated, what's neat about App Insights, it'll show you their authenticated ID. So this will correlate to identifiers to let you know within Dataverse that's backing it who they are. So this D7E7 actually represents somebody who's logged in, same as FAB and ECC. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later, but for now, this is to help get you started. You can see where were they at iOS 15, for instance, running it Texas. We also have iOS 16.4 and so on. So very, very interesting to see that on mobile Safari here. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ali Yousefi. You can find my email address, ali.yousefi@live.com, underneath my name there. Feel free to reach out on this recording, provide any comments, any likes, any subscriptions you like, and I look forward to hearing about your success monitoring your Power Pages and Power App Portal. Thank you.